Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another week of our hit podcast, Get Off the Damn Fence. We appreciate all of you for tuning in each and every week right here on our Facebook, YouTube page. Wherever you might find us, we are so happy to have you be a part of the Get Off the Damn Fence family. I'm your co-host, Larry Caution, joined as I am each and every week by Calvin Thomas, Justin B.A. the Barber Harris. What up, gentlemen?
Hey yo.
Oh, where's the octave? Where's the air?
Somber
Where
young
is
fellow.
it? The sound of hurt, despair. Dreams have been crushed for some, because we're still alive, baby.
I mean, at least you got your guy JD5. It could have been worse.
Hey, you called JD5 early, man. You was on the train, baby. That's what you asked for.
You just ain't
You,
think
you got what you asked for, Justin.
at home in Tampa.
Don't we got topics on the show? We usually got a slide or something. That's all I'm saying.
You were singing the man's
Perfect
praises.
timing.
I'm just saying, man. He did exactly what you told him to do. That's what you wanted to see. So why are you upset? Call him Nostradamus. All right, here we go. Let's get into it. NFL playoffs are underway.
Baker Mayfield in the graphic. That's poetic.
NFL playoffs are underway. Wild card weekend got off to a bang last week in many ways, but some ways wasn't really that great of a weekend. I thought there were a few games that left a little intrigue, but we had a lot of blowouts last weekend, man. We had some pretty much chalk picks. That Buffalo game, pathetic. The effort the Minnesota Vikings put up on Monday night, pathetic. Let's just take our time before we go forward and take a look back at last weekend. Calvin, I'll start with you. We're going to go through them all, but what was the game that really jumped out to you that made you be like, damn, what the hell's going on here? Something that really you didn't see coming, a result that maybe, you weren't expecting. What's the number one thing for you?
I'll leave the Tampa Bay game to my colleague. I figure that's what he wants to go with. But I'm going to go with the Chargers and the Texans. I didn't know this Texans defense was going to show up like they did. 4 picks, I believe, a couple sacks. I don't know if this was Justin Herbert just having a bad game, or this was just their defense really just kind of locking in and just realizing they're the underdog, and people really counted them out. And people said, quote unquote, they have that this is their bye week in the playoffs, which I've never heard for a wild card game. So Houston really showed me something. CJ Stroud showed me something. He's won a playoff game as a rookie and a second-year player, only the third quarterback to do that. I think the third quarterback coach to do that in the first 2 seasons. I know Flacco and Harbaugh was one. I think the other one was Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez. So pretty elite company. One led to a Super Bowl, one led to back-to-back AFC championship games. So CJ, as much as we talk about CJ Stroud losing his weapons, they really showed up wild card weekend. So.
Justin, we'll save the Tampa discussion. But what was another game that stood out to you from the weekend that you thought, that I didn't expect that, or happened exactly like you expected it to happen?
Well, besides the Texans Chargers game, the only other thing that was was a shocker to me was clearly the Rams and the Vikings. I was a proponent for the Vikings all year.
Both of y'all were.
Yes.
And yeah. And you don't go for Donald. And unfortunately, Sam went for Donald. And and as a result,
You're a verb.
LA just, they did what they supposed to do. They was out there doing wrestling moves, they was jumping on them and everything. It got real bad real early, and they just couldn't recover. So that was shocking to me.
Like I said, I know Calvin was hard on Sam Darnold for a while. I like to allow people to grow. If the guy was playing good, why can't we acknowledge the guy was playing well? Yes. Has he had issues in the past where he came out and said he was seeing ghosts out there? And,
past being yesterday.
Man, I'm just saying, the man had a phenomenal year. Acknowledge that. Now, the last 2 games, notwithstanding, other than that, he might have made himself a couple dollars, and then he might have lost a couple dollars, because God dang, he looked like, and I'm not going to put it all on him. The offensive game plan did him no favors. Aaron Jones in the backfield was no threat, did him no favors. The guy just looked like once they came, he couldn't go nowhere. Like there was nowhere for him to go, no mobility, like nothing, no elusiveness. His awareness, his ability to get rid of the ball quicker, just was gone.
He was shell shocked. He got shell shocked early.
I think, in a way, I think he might have been hurt and just didn't say anything. Like his mental was hurt, but he just looked slow. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that was shocking for me. I expected a better performance from that Minnesota team with all of those weapons. And again, like I said before the show started, if you look at what Josh Allen was able to do this year without his top weapons, and then you put a team together like Minnesota did, Sam Darnold, you got all those weapons, you got to get the job done. And I'll say the same thing for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Eckler out the backfield. We're used to always saying with him with a litany of weapons. Yes, they've had some injury issues over the past few years, but the first year without those weapons, they turned more to a ground and pound, run the ball offense, and they get to the playoffs. They had a pretty successful year, but at that point, that's the game you decide to throw 4 interceptions. Now, Calvin, I know you said earlier offline that you didn't put all that at his feet, and you're going to blame the offensive game plan for that. Explain that a little bit more.
All I'm going to say is when you do a deep dive into numbers, let's look at Greg Roman's last 4 postseason games. And then granted, this is one, and you have to go back 2 years to the Buffalo game with the Ravens, the Tennessee game the week before that, and then the Tennessee game from the year before that. The most a Greg Roman offense has scored in the postseason in the last 4 playoff games is 20 points. And the majority of that has been through the ground. They have not put up any. And we're talking about Lamar MVP seasons that they have not done anything in the postseason. And
but can I push back on that and give you a little bit more context?
Eventually, this catches up to you, and it catches up to Greg Roman's offense.
The style of play is conducive to winning in the regular season. You still need to have some playmakers to make the game breaking plays in the playoffs. And I still will contend. If you go back and look at those Ravens teams, your number one receiver is a tight end or a young Hollywood Brown. This Chargers team, your number one receiver is Ladd McConkey, who had 190, like 100.
He had 190 out of the 230 that Justin Herbert threw for.
And you tell me who's else was supposed to step up and took some of those be a threat of some sort on the outside for Justin Herbert to throw the ball to. And I'm not placing that at the play caller's feet. I'm placing that at Quentin. What's his name? Quentin Johnson.
Palmer, Josh Palmer.
No, he's wide receiver. You got these guys.
Palmer too. It's Palmer.
Yeah, they got Palmer, but he wasn't playing. I don't think. Well, he just was ineffective. You have talent, but they're not household names that the team is going to respect. So the defense just was pinning their ears back and rushing the passer. Like, I mean, at some point, the GM has to do the job as well.
It's year one.
No. You were trying to compare the Greg Roman offense, and I'm
comparing what Greg Roman's done in the playoffs and the consistency in the poor performances. That's what I'm saying.
I can also say the receiving corps haven't been great. But anyway,
with all that being said, especially me, I said Harbaugh was brought in for one reason to take the pressure off of Herbert, because he is not a leader of men. That's just point blank. And he also needs pretty much a premier running back in order to incorporate what he really wants to do, what Greg Roman wants to do. You can plug in anybody. The fact of the matter is you need a superstar to take this team to a next level, and that superstar is not and will never be Justin Herbert. It's just, it is what it is. So you get them Saquon Barkley or something like that, that is a whole different situation, and they probably win that game easy.
So you comparing Justin Herbert to Jalen Hurts?
Not at all. I'm just saying that with that type of running game, running game, you just need a premier running back, and they just didn't have one. That's just all it is.
Well,
you can't rely on them.
Let's talk about another quarterback that I thought didn't do himself any favors, but I didn't expect much from him, and that's Jordan Love. Because I know, Calvin, you're high on Jordan Love all year. He was your pick for MVP of the entire league preseason. You thought he was going to have a career year. What did he do? Exactly what I said. He turns the ball over too much. Big games, competition, step up in competition. What happens? They they fold like a banquet chair. They look just like the youngest team in the NFL, mind you, a young team that's not ready. And that's just the bottom line. When the competition steps up, the Green Bay Packers have never under Jordan Love answered the bell. And this is just another example.
Yeah, I mean, I give you the youngest team in the league, the turnovers, the injuries on the receiver front. He was down a receiver going into the game, then they lost the receiver in the game. Josh Jacobs didn't really do anything.
No, Josh Jacobs was good. I thought Josh Jacobs played hard.
I think he played. In my opinion, he got a lot of garbage yards in which the offense was. They weren't predictable, but whenever he got yards, it was 3rd and 15. We're going to give you the ball, and you're going to get 8, 9, and 10 yards. That's what kind of what it was. They need to be healthy. They need to get a better offensive line. I had high expectations, but they've been so up and down. They just haven't beat anyone good this year. And I think that was evident going to the playoffs, where you're going to face good competition and just weren't able to compete.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into some of these other matchups a little deeper before we preview what's going on this weekend coming. And we got to start the big one, Buffalo and Baltimore this weekend. It's the primetime game on Sunday night. Ravens travel to Buffalo for the second time since Lamar Jackson's been the quarterback. The last time they went up there, the Ravens were only able to score, 3 points? I think they scored 3 points. They were down at the goal line, prepared to go in. They possibly could, because the game was like 10-3. The Ravens were about to go in to score, and then Lamar fumbles the ball. They run it. Was it an interception? Yeah, interception for a touchdown. Buffalo runs it back. Final score, and they score that touchdown, which makes it, instead of 10-3, it's 17-3, and that's the final. Lamar gets hurt on that play. So that's the last scene we recall from Baltimore up in Buffalo for a playoff game. Lamar Jackson suffered a concussion. Bills Mafia sent money for Lamar, like a charity case. They treated him like, you know what I mean? It was sad, man. But since then, the conversation has been about Lamar Jackson, MVP Josh Allen. Which one will bring that home? Who's your pick? A lot of people are divided. Is this a race thing? Both of them play very similarly as far as using their legs and able to throw the football. A lot of people gave Josh Allen more credit for having better arm strength early in his career, maybe more accuracy, developed into a better passer. His performances against Patrick Mahomes. So just a lot of dichotomy to this game when you throw in the race element, when you throw in the MVP element. Justin, I'll start with you. Right off the bat, it's Tuesday night, games on Sunday. The line opened up. I think the Ravens were a 1-point favorite on the road when I looked at the line the last time I saw it. If you had to pick right now, who you taking?
This is pretty simple. It's going to be Buffalo. I choose Buffalo not because Lamar isn't great. I choose Buffalo because I think they being the coaching staff, I just don't believe they're going to let Lamar play Lamar. Somewhere along the line, it's just he's not going. You're going to look back and say, "Damn, Lamar, you did it again. You just didn't give what you normally do." I didn't see that Pittsburgh performance this week. Because if you look back at that Pittsburgh game that just happened, I mean, did TJ Watt even play?
Yeah.
No, he didn't, because he didn't do anything out there. He couldn't touch him. He couldn't touch him.
I would explain that a little bit more. Go ahead.
So what I say those things to say, Lamar just plays incredible at times, and then at other times it's like, what happened? So I hope that's not the case personally, but at the end of the day, Buffalo is coming to the situation where Josh Allen just probably threw the ball to at least 8 different players. And the least people were mainly his 2 top guys, which is Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper. They only got 1 or 2 balls each. So that tells you that when you go into this matchup, you cannot key in on nobody other than Josh Allen. He will spread the ball. He will test your defense. He remembers what happens when they played early in the year. And I guarantee you he's probably won't make the same mistakes. So will they let Lamar be Lamar? Will Lamar rush the ball? Like I was glad to see him running the ball against Pittsburgh. I was glad to see him playing his style in when he was playing against Pittsburgh. I just don't see it happening for some reason. In my heart of hearts, this upcoming Sunday.
Calvin, what's your thoughts heading into this game this weekend?
So I respect your opinion. I don't. If it's that type of game, I don't see it being that type of game. Let me just say like that. I think it's going to be more of a high scoring game. I know we talked about that all wild card weekend and really never came into fruition with a lot of matches we saw. I don't think Buffalo's defense is up to par with Pittsburgh's defense, and that even though Baltimore's more familiar with their defense, they saw them twice in the last 5 or 6 weeks. I see this game a clash of styles. Like Buffalo really likes to play dime and nickel and have extra DB out there. If they do that against Baltimore, they're just going to run up and down the field. So it's going to be who's going to be more comfortable doing what they're uncomfortable doing. Can Buffalo play base defense? Can they stop the run? Can they stop Derrick Henry? Can they put them in 2nd and long or 2nd and 10, which gets Henry off the field and kind of gets the Ravens behind schedule? Likewise, can Baltimore get turnovers? Like, can they in the first matchup they got turnovers? They were able to stifle the run. Is James Cook going to show up? Will he get 100 yards? They have weapons. They have Amari Cooper. Will Amari Cooper show up? They have a two-headed weapon in tight end as well. This is going to be, I think, has the potential to be a high-scoring ball game. I do think the Ravens defense is playing better at this point than they were in that initial matchup, and they only scored 10 points. I do think they have a better safety rotation. The linebackers are better against the run. The defensive line is somewhat healthy at this point. Their really only injury is on offense. I think the defense makes the key stop or the key turnover late, which allows Baltimore to secure the victory, and that's where I'm going with Baltimore to win on Sunday.
You know, it's very, very seldom that I feel this confident about a football game. I honestly, this was what I wanted. I told y'all this 2 weeks ago. I said the path I want the Steelers, I want the Bills, and I want the Chiefs. That's what I want. And this was the game I felt the best about. Last week was the game I honestly was the most worried about because against the Steelers, some kind of way, a strip sack, some type of an opportune fumble, something always happens. But if I've studied this Buffalo Bills team, they are not as advertised. I'm sorry, they're not. Last week, that Denver game was a mirage. Denver was never that good. We destroyed them. Like that there's things that you could do to that Denver team. It is exactly what Buffalo exploited in the second half. That game was very close in the first half. Josh Allen was pretty pedestrian. And if you look at the receiver core for the Bills, Justin, you talked about they had 8 different receivers that caught the ball. That's fine. That's exactly what we prefer. The Ravens struggle against big-time receivers who can dominate you, who can stretch you deep, who can take you different verticals. This team, everything is in front of you, and that's what we want. Nobody's beating you over the top for the Bills. Who's really the threat that you worried about?
You say that now, and watch watch Amari Cooper give you about 150.
Okay, sure. Good luck with that. Okay. Nobody on the Bills scares the Ravens. I promise you that. And we're the number 1 team against the run. Roquan Smith will be keyed in and ready to go. But the biggest issue and the biggest reason why this game does not bother me is that man right there. If you go back and watch that first game, I watched it again today just to make sure that my memory was just sharp on what exactly happened. The first drive of the game, the Bills get the ball. They had, throw that little dink and dunks. Ravens tackle. This is when our defense wasn't even that great yet, mind you. This is when we still had Marcus Williams back at safety.
And Eddie Jackson.
We had we had like scrubs out there and were able to go bottle up everything. They had the same receivers just before Amari Cooper. But if you watch Amari Cooper since he's been to Buffalo, what has he done? Has he done anything of note? Have you seen him have any games where he put fear in people's heart? I don't think this guy still want to play football. That's where I'm at with it. He takes himself out of plays so often. Now, look, they Coleman, these guys are shifty inside. Fine. That's what we want. That's why Marlon plays a slot. That's why Marlon plays where he plays. That's why Hamilton can come down and pick these guys up. Stevens, this is not a game where I'm worried about Stevens because this is not a receiver that I feel like, oh, he can't hang with.
You wasn't worried about Van Jefferson?
Hey, they beat once in the third quarter. It is what it is. Mid-bag of shows. The key is, what are they going to do with that guy? What are they going to do with Derrick Henry, who ran for like a buck? What did he do? A $1.80 last time? I mean, just phenomenal. Like, look, last week you said the game plan. Did you know why they let TJ Watt do what he did? Sometimes they left TJ Watt untouched. Like, let him go. Just go let him go. Let him run at Lamar. Let him run at Derrick Henry. He had no clue who was keeping the ball. That game plan in the first half last Saturday was probably the best game plan I've seen from Todd Monken since he's been here. That was absolutely sensational. At one point, Lamar Jackson kept the ball 4 straight times because they just knew, oh, he definitely handed it off this time. No, I'm keeping it again. Oh, no, I'm keeping it again. And he just was eating them up. And then as soon as they changed something, there goes Derrick Henry for 50. Like, that is the cat and mouse game that they played. And this is what I was Zay Flowers. This was Bateman, Aguilar, and 2 tight ends, and you got your beast in the backfield. That was sensational. And there's absolutely nothing about the Buffalo Bills that makes me feel that they can do anything with this offense. I don't see it. And people can say, you got to worry about Josh Allen. No. They got to worry about us. The best defense is a great offense. What are they going to do to stop him? What are they going to do? You tell me the linebacker that can tackle him on the Bills one-on-one. You tell me, because that's what it's going to be. You're going to have to put 8 in the box. Sometimes you're going to have to drop 9, especially if they play similarly to how they played last week. I don't see it. This game is set up if the Ravens don't turn the ball over. If they don't put themselves in inopportune position because of penalties, being a 2nd and 19 or nothing stupid like that, holding calls, things of that nature. If you've been paying attention the last 3-4 weeks, the Ravens have played clean football. They have not turned the ball over, and the penalties have gone down tremendously. They probably were the most penalized team in the league. And over the last few weeks, I mean, it's been minimal, right, Calvin? Yeah. I haven't seen it much. Yeah. But the key is the big fella is churning, and everybody know you got to stop him first. If 22 is the first option, and if Lamar Jackson is somebody you got to worry about second, you're in trouble. I feel excellent about this game. This game is, to me, will put Lamar Jackson at a different level as far as how you think about him as a playoff quarterback. And people going to give Derrick Henry the credit, and they should. But he's made Derrick Henry better as well. Because if you look at it, last year, Derrick Henry averaged 60 yards a game on the ground. Go back and look at that. I looked it up. This year, he's averaging, 120, 110 or something like that. Like, the threat of Lamar has helped Derrick Henry just as much as people saying Derrick Henry has helped Lamar. It's a dual tandem thing. I can't wait. This is sensational. Go ahead. Any pushback?
You know, if the Ravens play their game, just like I even sent it in text or whatever the case may be, to my barbershop guys. You know, the Ravens football is rushing the ball. So when they do that effectively, it goes back to what I said earlier in the year, that this is probably one of the most dynamic offenses that you'll ever see in recent memory, especially when it comes to rushing the ball. So if that does happen, then the Ravens should win. Sometimes people get in their own way, and I think this might be one of the times. If Buffalo strikes early, I'd like to see how they react to that. So it's a lot to do with Josh Allen. It's going to be a lot on the shoulders, and we're going to see who's the true MVP at the end of this game. Is Josh Allen going to fold like he did before, or is Lamar Jackson going to do what he needs to do at the same time too? So it's a wrestling ball game. But you talking like it's going to be a blowout. That's what I hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm asking you, are you calling a blowout? 17
points. That's what I got. 17. I look. I'm telling you, I don't.
Three scores.
I
Okay.
honestly have no.
Okay.
17
to
at
me,
home.
Buffalo was a great story, and I picked them to make the playoffs. Y'all didn't. I thought it was a tremendous story. But what they'll say is after this game, well, they lost all these pieces. They weren't that supposed to be here anyway. They playing with house money. What they got to lose? It's not gonna be no knock on them for losing to the Ravens, who should have, in many people's account, won to the Super Bowl last year. They had the number 1 seed. They went out and added Derrick Henry. In many people's eyes, this is the hottest team in football. I don't think it's no shame. No, this game ain't gonna be close. I don't think so. That's just my opinion. Who am I? And I think the Ravens sometimes play looser on the road. They do. Like they don't fear the Boo Birds. They like being the enemy. They like going in there. You see what they did to Houston on Christmas? Like that's what they like doing. They like going places and embarrassing you on your place. And I just think the running game is different. If we were reliant on Zay or reliant on just passing the ball, that's different. But run games travel. And the way they run the ball, and this ain't no, and this is another thing. And I know I'm taking time, but we ain't got a lot of time tonight. We got plenty of time. The main thing about this thing is if you really, really go back, and as much as we thought the Ravens should have done better last year, that was all predicated on the ability of Lamar Jackson. Because rightfully so, if you go back, we lost J.K. Dobbins early in the season. Keaton Mitchell got hot. We lost him. He was gone. Our playoff running backs were Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. Gus has never been the same. Injuries, whatever. He's just never been that guy again. So if you really look at the Ravens and be like, you go from Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, and that's what teams have the game plan for. Now to Derrick Henry, just the threat of 22 back there makes the whole defense have to rethink that whole game plan. You can't just sit and say, oh, we ain't worried about that. We can play them straight up front and we'll cover everything on the back end. No. Everybody has to be aware and be on tackling assignment. Look how he did last week. He get through the line of scrimmage against Pittsburgh. That's a touchdown right up the gut, because you got to be disciplined. You got to be lane integral. You have to play your gaps. You can't make those mistakes against Derrick Henry because he has the ability to go to the house every time. You didn't have that fear against Gus Edwards or Justice Hill. It's just a different fear that teams have to have against this team in the playoffs. Go ahead, Calvin.
So you don't think that Buffalo is any better than they were week 4 of this year?
No, I think the Ravens are better. And that was my point.
Okay.
I think the Ravens, I was frustrated with the Ravens heading into that Buffalo game. If you recall, we were 0-2.
They were 1-2.
1-2. And we're refusing to run the football. Remember that? Yeah. Like, this was one of the games that made us be like, see, if you do it, it'll work. And the defense wasn't that great. All of a sudden,
correct.
They've gotten rid of them.
They were a sack on a flea flicker or trick play away from possibly giving away another lead. So
you get what I mean? So yeah, I'm just saying, I'm more confident. It's not about Buffalo to me. This is about the Ravens.
You're more confident than I am. I was more confident last week, just knowing the offensive limitation of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, I think that Buffalo can put up points. Now, granted, I wonder how much of the Ravens' defensive resurgence is just schedule and how much of it is actually, I know some of it is play call and some of it is the players being in position. Some of it actually those players making plays as well. But have they really played? Have they played a good to great offense yet? An offense as capable as this offense has. I mean, if you want to say Philadelphia, okay, but I mean, I'm not really high on just on one Hurts. So this would be the test. I'm not saying like I said, I think they're going to win. I'm not 17 points that they're going to win though. I'm not saying that.
Maybe more. I'm just saying real, man. Look, James Cook is a great young player. I like him, but I think what the Ravens will first try to do is stifle the run. I just don't believe in the Buffalo receiving corps is something you can't play your regular defense against and still run to the ball and tackle. And the Ravens have been tackling. Look how many plays could have went for a first down, but because the defense has been closing and making sure tackles, stopping people at fourth or fourth and short, and then they going for it. I can see this game being not a lot of official quote unquote turnovers, but the Buffalo could be going for it on fourth down and not getting it, and turnover on down type of plays that's going to really come back to bite them. And I think that's the issue. The Ravens live in third and short now. Like that's and look at that percentage on third down. Oh my goodness, it's ridiculous. And again, Likely and Andrews is playing some of the best ball of his career right now. And I don't think that those linebackers can do both. I don't think you can pay the respect that's necessary to Lamar and Derrick Henry at the same time and still defend the tight ends leaking out. And again, Justin, you said something about TJ Watt earlier. I don't put that on TJ Watt. I put that on Todd Monken because they game plan for the pressure that Pittsburgh presents. They game plan specifically for what they knew was going to happen. Now you got a Von Miller. Now you got those pass rushers for Buffalo who are going to try to do a very similar thing after seeing what happened last week. And now you throw your counter. Now you so no. We showed you this. Now we're going to go the other way. You got game template a film from week 4 that you think you can replicate, but these teams are so different from week 4 as far as the Ravens defensively. I mean, again, I could go on and on. I could do a whole show on this game because I really think this team is prime and ready. The Kansas City game, that's a whole other discussion. But this Buffalo team, I'm not worried about them. I'm not. That's just me personally. We don't have to belabor this point any longer. Let's move on. Houston and Kansas City. Hey, man, that's how I feel, man. You got anything to add? Go ahead. Houston and Kansas City this Saturday at 4:30. We saw this game a few weeks ago. Wasn't that great? This was the game where Tank Dell got injured, correct? Broke his leg or something like that on that Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, before Christmas.
Yeah, so the game was fairly close at the time, and they were able to get to Patrick Mahomes. But at the end, Patrick Mahomes played pretty clean in that game down the stretch. I think they put up about 3 touchdowns, really got the job done. Justin, I'll start with you. What do you look to see in this matchup?
I expect Patrick Mahomes to dominate this game. I expect the Chiefs to dominate. I expect Andy Reid. I expect the first 15 plays to go off pretty well, the scripted plays. I expect all these things. What Houston did last week was nice. What Houston did last week was, to me, predictable with their bookends that they had, Will Anderson and the boys. I figured that they was going to they was going to dominate their opponent. This is a different breed of monster right here. This is different. This is not Justin Herbert. This is Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and he gets that respect. He is the Tom Brady like when it comes to playoff football, and this team is just not ready for the Chiefs. Even if they took, this is why they sat Patrick Mahomes the last game. They weren't aware. They weren't worried about whoever they was playing against. They just wasn't. Not that first round. The next round, totally different. This round, nah, they're just not worried. Chris Jones got an extra week to recuperate. Everybody is primed and ready, and they know who they're playing against. To me, I think one of the most important things I need to look at is the offensive flow. Now that Isaiah's been back for a few weeks, Kareem Hunt is still in the mix. You still have Travis Kelce. You still have the backup Noah the backup tight end, and now you add Hollywood Brown. They had a whole week and a half of preparation from Hollywood to Hopkins to Xavier Worthy that's playing the slot, and they're going to use something like a young Tyreek Hill. Like, this is the Kansas City Chiefs, and I swear this is football, so I don't necessarily say this too often, but when I say a light is going to be flipped, they're going to hit that light switch, and then they're going to be a whole different team. What you saw against Pittsburgh, with the Chiefs played against Pittsburgh, in which Patrick Mahomes kind of looked like his old self out of nowhere, this is a continuation of that. Houston will probably get cell shot. I'm not even going to lie. CJ, he was shell shock. He was in a different stratosphere before he kind of got that big runoff in that game, and that kind of shook. So actually, the big run, the fumble that led to he picked it up, scooped it in, and threw it. Like, it took some things to get CJ going. That this team won't make those mistakes. Kansas City doesn't make those kind of mistakes. So there's no need for no fourth quarter miracles here. There's no need to blame the referees for this particular win. No, it's going to be Kansas City just outright beating Houston. As confident as you feel with the Baltimore going against Buffalo, I probably feel just as confident with Kansas City going against Houston.
So you got to win it by 17.
3 scores.
Yeah. Yeah, when you believe it, you believe it.
Okay, that's 17 points.
It might be more.
Yeah.
Look, I look at this a little bit differently. I got Kansas City winning, but I'm just slightly. I want to see how this offense performs after having basically 2 weeks off. They didn't play last week, and then they didn't play week 18 as well. So this offense is not played in 3 weeks. Will this offense just come out hot? Will it come out rolling? Will it come out on fire? Don't think so. I just think it's going to take a little bit for them to get started. And I think that gives Houston a chance to kind of keep this close, maybe take a slight lead going to the halftime, maybe 3 points, something like that. I think Kansas City eventually wins. I just don't know if they're going to come out guns blazing like you believe, Justin. I think they're going to have to, it's going to take a little bit of time to get back into the flow, back to incorporate Isaiah Pacheco, to incorporate Hollywood Brown. You got these, Park Ice Brown. He ain't Hollywood no more than me. You adding all these new pieces late into the year, and you expect it to click just like that, and you haven't played in 3 weeks. You haven't played a meaningful game in over a month. Like, I just think it's going to take a little bit just to get them started. I'm not saying they're going to lose this ball game. I think it's going to be closer than it should be. And I think it's going to lead to worry and concern going into the AFC Championship game, which is in Kansas City. But we got to remember, this team hasn't played in 3 weeks, hasn't played a meaningful game in over a month. That's my only concern with Kansas City. And if it does remain close, can Houston kind of put a little bit more fear into them in the third quarter, early into the fourth? Can they do that? Can they score when it need be? Can they keep the ball? Can they run the ball consistently with Joe Mixon? Can they get the ball to Nico Collins and have him dominate the game, seeing as though he's their primary receiver? That's just what I want to see. Will Kansas City come out hot? I don't think so. I think it's going to be, like I said, a little bit of a slow start for them. Eventually, they will win because I think this is Kansas City. This is Patrick Mahomes. It's hard to bet against them in the playoffs, but I just worry about how they start at home on Saturday.
Look, I'm picking Kansas City to win the game. I mean, that's not a shocker, but there is something to be said about rust and rest. Even though this team has routinely had the #1 record, and they should be used to getting that, but I thought Kansas City was actually playing pretty sharp prior to resting everybody in week 18. I thought they were actually finding their rhythm. Mahomes, we know he was dinged up a little bit, but he still played sensational with that injury his last game he played. My only thing is that thing about momentum. And I thought Houston actually played terrible in the first half last week. But then all of a sudden, once they found that groove, they found that rhythm, they played sensational in the second half. If somehow DeMeco Ryans is able to garner that and get this team to keep that momentum, and they come out hot on Sunday. And I ain't talking about just offensively, but the last time they played, they was on Mahomes' ass. Mm-hmm. If they able to, with them boys they got, the Neil Hunter and them, and if they able to get downhill and get hands on Mahomes and sack him, we know that offensive line, even though Joe Thuney, they moved him over to the left tackle, and they've been playing a little better since he moved to left tackle. I still need to see them tested. And if that pass rush for Houston play like they did against Justin Herbert last week, and they are able to disrupt what Kansas City likes to do with their rhythm plays, and it can get testy, but I still like Kansas City to win. The issue still is we've seen too many opportunities this season for teams to beat Kansas City and not get it done. And they've lived with a horseshoe in their tail all year for the most part, until the latter part of the year, where it seems like they have been kind of putting more decisive victories together. So if Houston is going to get it done, they need to emphatically put points on the board if they get stops. If the defense go out there and do what they're supposed to do, like I assume they will for the majority of the game, you have to score points. And the loss of Tank Dell is not enough of an excuse for me at this point. You have to adjust. I need more from my running game. I need more from receivers not named Nico Collins And that's the only chance they have. But defensively, they can play with anybody. So it'll be interesting because if the Texans win this game and the Ravens win AFC Championship game, we'll be back in Baltimore. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long shot, but it can happen.
But just overall in general, what does this say? Just in y'all opinion, that we have the same two teams in the division round we had last year, just different matchups.
Same four.
Just different matchups.
Well, if you look at it, a lot of people expected Buffalo to take a step back in the AFC East, but they didn't. So they've been owning the AFC East for the last several years since the Patriots went downhill. Kansas City owns the West. The Ravens are in one of the most competitive divisions, and they won it again. I think it speaks to the organizations. Houston, they just got lucky. That's probably the weakest damn division in football. You know what I mean? When you win,
the salary cap room. Look,
it's a little bit more. That's a little bit more. I think one, you have 3 top tier quarterbacks playing, so three of them could be booked in almost every year.
I'll go further in that statement.
What's further than that?
I think this is 4 of the top 5. I thought the other one's Burrow.
Okay. So, all right. I'm not going to argue too much on that right now. So when you have top tier quarterback play, that's usually who represents your conference. You got to think about it. Let's talk about the years of the decade or two before that. You was always going to see Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, some kind of way in the Final Four. That kind of thing. Ben Roethlisberger and Joe Flacco. I mean, let's be honest. He was always kind of in the mix a little bit. So when you have top tier quarterback play, especially in the playoffs, that's what gives you.
I was thinking earlier, and I was like, what is, and this is my last comment on this. There's no reason why the next 5 Super Bowls shouldn't be won by one of those 5 quarterbacks.
I can't say that because Detroit,
I can't think of a reason why.
Detroit, while we don't look at him and Jared Goff in this particular category, I think if you look at the longevity of his career and what he's done over it, he's proven to be a top quarterback.
That's fine, but if Detroit plays Baltimore, Kansas City, or Buffalo, they're not the favorite.
Well, we jumping the gun a little bit.
We're right. You're right. I'm saying they're going to win 2 more games, but I'm saying if they play 3 out of 4 teams that are remaining, they're not the favorite. There's no reason why one of those 5 quarterbacks should not.
We kind of said
every year.
I kind of brought this up last time when we was going through the Pro Bowl selections. How you had Patrick Mahomes not a part of the Pro Bowl because of the other 3 guys, and you didn't have that problem in NFC. The AFC is right now is the home of the quarterback.
I agree. That's what I said. Next 5 years, they should all. I'm not saying Mahomes won't win the next 5 or every other one, but one of those 5 should win a Super Bowl. You should be scared if you don't. You should be outside of and they're all playing the AFC, so that makes
the problem is you never know what the NFC could possibly stir up. The Philadelphia Eagles kind of came out of nowhere, won a Super Bowl. The Rams put together.
Jalen Hurts hasn't been the same since.
I'm just saying that was just their
team.
And I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about before that when
I got you.
The other quarterback won. Nick Foles. Yes, you never know. The Rams said F them picks, put together a collection of guys, and just went with Stafford, and they took it all the way.
And
take it before that,
Tom Brady.
Bay.
Burrow.
But I'm saying Tom Brady with the Buccaneers, he put something together and went all the way. So the NFC does have a collection of talent that they can put together to win as well.
And you named Brady, no longer playing. You named Matt Stafford, who's on the backside of his career. You named Nick Foles, who's no longer in the league, and you named Jalen Hurts, who hasn't been the same in 2 years. All of the NFC quarterbacks.
I
think you're being a bit harsh on Jalen Hurts coming off the concussion issue. He when his time to play, he can play.
But even the last year, did he have?
We know last year was a bad year. It was a bad year.
This year, we're disappointed down the stretch.
Super Bowl. Yeah, disappointing. He wasn't disappointing when they challenged him to throw the football. Went out there.
I said down the stretch. Was he disappointing?
I didn't think he was disappointing down
this year.
He got hurt. He got hurt and missed the last 2 games.
Before he got hurt.
No, remember
he started to feed AJ.
He went out there and started flexing on him. Like, remember, is that what y'all wanted? Remember, they've been running the ball with a 2,000-yard rusher all year. Of course, the quarterback going to take a step back. What are we talking about here?
Okay.
Like, why does look? Everything doesn't require stats to go out of the wazoo if you're looking for team success. Sometimes you do got to cut your head and say, hey, Saquon's the best option today. Hand the ball off. What are we looking for? I know you're a Cowboy, so you got to hate the Eagles. But let's be fair here. With
I do anything.
Yeah,
I've been hounding JD5.
Because you know he's no threat. Anyway, let's go to
the division.
Anything.
The Rams and the Eagles.
Yes, let's go to the Rams and Eagles Sunday at 3:00. Matthew Stafford got the job done. 3 for 3. 2 early touchdowns on that game on Monday, and really put the Vikings on their heels. They were able to run the ball effectively. The Eagles, on the other hand, Jalen Hurts. The game was kind of more of a slugfest, pretty slow. Jalen didn't look sharp, missed some throws, but nothing great, but didn't take that much to win that ball game last Sunday as well. Eagles defense is still pretty effective. Calvin, I'll start with you this time. What do you look to see? Clearly, you're not high on the Eagles, so you're picking the Rams, right?
Didn't say that. I mean,
okay. I just wanted to ask.
That Rams defense had a hell of a game last night against Minnesota. They had Sam Darnold out here just playing like the Sam Darnold that we were accustomed to seeing. Philadelphia, on the other hand, didn't really think that they needed to, show too much in their win against Green Bay. Thankfully, they were able to get Jalen Hurts back, kind of get him back in rhythm. The defense really stepped up in that matchup as well. Look, I didn't realize that Rams were going to Philly. I thought they would have a path in which they could stay indoors in some capacity on the road to the NFC Championship game, which most likely would have been in Detroit. I'm not sure if the defense is the great equalizer for Philadelphia, because I think this Rams offense kind of starting to find their rhythm, and their defense, their young defense, really just doesn't know any better, and they're just flying around the ball at this point right now. I'm going with the Rams. I think that their offense is going to be better. I'm not sure what to expect from Jalen Hurts if I need him to throw the ball right now. That's the only thing I'm scared of. And it's been a couple weeks since that concussion. I find it interesting that he wasn't cleared until last week, which makes you think that they did not even want to try to go through clearing him prior to the last week of the season, or they just felt like it was a formality that he was going to be cleared. I just wanted to see him do more, even though it wasn't necessary on Sunday. I just don't know if he's all the way back, and that's what kind of bothers me, having those questions in the divisional round, even though it's a home game. And all the pressure is on Philadelphia. They're the favorite. They're at home. They're supposed to go in this matchup. They're supposed to go play Detroit next week. I think all the pressure is on them. I just don't know if Jalen Hurts can respond if need be on Sunday. It wouldn't surprise me if Philadelphia wins, but I'm picking the Rams.
Justin?
My bad. I was reading my book. I personally have Philadelphia winning this game. I think that first game was enough to get Jalen Hurts back into the flow of everything. So, yes, he did have a concussion games off, and that is very important. So, he had to shake the rust off a little bit, and he has enough weapons to buy him some time. With that being said, the Rams are coming off of a extremely defensive performance to the point where, like I said earlier, they had Sam Darnold. He was shook. He didn't know what to do. But this is Jalen Hurts. You come at him like that, boss, he's going to find a way to get out the situation. He's going to use his legs. He is not stationary like Sam Darnold is. That is a plus for Jalen Hurts. The Eagles' the offensive line is immaculate. I mean, Jalen took forever to throw the ball. He had time and deliver the ball after 4 or 5 seconds being in the pocket, being untouched. It's just a different type of situation when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. Saquon Barkley is clearly still dominant. He's still rushing the ball at a high level. So yes, you can bring pressure if you want to. You hit the wrong gap. Saquon will find the right gap, and he might break it for another 20, 30, 40-yard run. So I strongly feel as if The Rams had a good performance. It looked good, and they did what it's supposed to do. Got Minnesota up out of there, but Philadelphia is going to do what they need to do.
I'm going with Philly. I picked Philly before the year to go to the Super Bowl. I see no reason to venture from that. I think the defensive game plan last week was pretty solid for Green Bay. They played pretty tough. They just offensively couldn't do nothing with them. Now, Rams, on the other hand, their defense has been playing really, really good. Really defensive line. You thought they're gonna earn what's his name? Donald was still out there the way they was flying off the ball. But again, there's something missing about this Rams offense. I know they put up some points, but Cooper Kupp just doesn't look like himself. Puka's great, but Cooper Kupp just gets you nothing every week. And it's consistent, man. I've been watching this, and this Rams offense, they just go into stretches where they just stall out. They got out hot on Minnesota last night, so I give them credit for that. But I'm still not 100% convinced that a West Coast team going to the East Coast when it's cold like it's going to be, everything that's happening in LA with the fires and everything like that, I thought that was an emotional win for them last night. They had to be displaced from LA, didn't get a real home game, went to Arizona. There were a lot of Minnesota fans in that stands, and I thought they played for pride and played for something a little bit bigger. And that's enough to get you through one win. But I think they're coming back down to earth on this weekend, and I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles at home. It's cold outside, and I think Saquon, this is a classic Saquon game. We saw what he did the last time, and I think there's nothing I see that's going to show me that they can't replicate that same type of performance. Next up, the Washington Commanders travel to Detroit to take on the Lions. Now, before we look ahead, we got to look back, and we have to take some moment to give Justin the floor and talk about exactly what happened last week on last Sunday Night Football. The whole world was watching as the Washington Commanders went down to Tampa Bay and pulled out a victory from the jaws of defeat. Justin, what happened?
Doink. First and foremost, I blame the wind. The wind didn't do us any favors on that one.
Okay.
We just needed 3 more inches to the opposite side, and it just went straight left. No, this came down to one thing, and one thing over was the turnover.
Excuse me, sir. We like to see your face when you talk.
Oh no, I thought this was a somber moment. No, it came down to a turnover. That's it. JD5 didn't turn the ball over. They was very aggressive going forward on 4th down at the 4th down, and they finally converted one when they needed to convert one. And then after that, we couldn't corral them. We couldn't corral them. We just couldn't sack them the way that we should have, especially to close the game out. And Baker, when he fumbled that handoff away, he literally fumbled the game away. And
do you think that was Baker's fault? Be honest.
I think Baker was pulling it back. So yes.
Wait, what? Wasn't somebody emotional? Like, didn't
I thought the receiver knocked it out of his arm? But you saying
Jalen McMillan was in motion. He could have got the handoff. But I think he was either Baker was going to pull it back and maybe give it to Bucky Irvin on the opposite side for the counter, or take it himself. Either way, he messed it up. He took onus of it. He took accountability the whole entire time. As soon as he sat down on the sideline, he said it was me. In the post game, he said it was him. So that leads me to think that it kind of was him, and not him just saying the right thing.
Okay.
But like I said, at the end of the day, when I say JD5 is different, he's a different guy. So I honestly, it was I was joking about it a little bit. I'm not 100% mad. We're literally starting the JD5 story right now. We was the first ones to play him, and we beat him then. But he got his first playoff win against us. Their first playoff win since like 2005. I think they beat us then too. That's neither here nor there at that point. The fact of the matter is,
you sound so depressed.
Daniels is different. And early in the season, I joked. I said, "Yo, this is like a year 5 Lamar Jackson playing right now." I was trolling a little bit, but is it safe to say
Of
like a
course.
year 3 Lamar Jackson right now? Yes. Like, and I'm not. This is not trolling. Like this dude is his poise,
He
his
was already
moxie,
MVP at that
all
point.
Maybe year two.
all those things. That's what I'm saying. What I'm seeing right now. When I say that he didn't get rattled at all as a rookie, he wasn't. Hell, they made the game winning field goal, and he didn't smile. He didn't crack a
Didn't
smile.
budge. Mhm.
He said it felt like he expected this, and everybody else is catching up with him. That's the type of level that I'm putting him on. So when you bring up the NFC quarterbacks, and you was talking about this and talking about, I left a name out purposely just for this segment.
Oh yeah,
JD5 is the person that's going
I
to be leading the NFC moving forward. He's going to
I
be the
know.
mainstay moving forward. Now, nobody mentioned. I'm just saying this is me
I
mentioning.
know. I know. I
Like,
pissed Commanders fans off saying that, but it is
That's
what
what
it is.
that was your intention.
Yeah. Yeah.
so no, it's like that. So enough about JD5. It's just Washington might be 1 year away.
So
Let
spring
them
that
go into
forward.
the.
Talk about this game.
That's what I'm saying right now. They're just a year away. They need to get more weapons and things like that, and they can do that under a rookie contract on top of everything. But you're going against Detroit, and Detroit is ready. They're primed. They have all the weapons that they need. Jared Goff won't blow this just yet. He's I think he'll probably blow a couple games later on, but not this game. They're coming. Washington's coming into Detroit, and their defense leaves much to be desired. That's one of the reasons why they were so aggressive. Dan Quinn and them boys was because they knew that we was going to score them. They knew Tampa Bay was going to score, and they couldn't stop us really. Once we got rolling, they knew they couldn't stop them. So what they did was they said, well, we're going to keep going for we're going to extend this thing as far as we can to keep Tampa Bay pretty much off their field. That was their version of ball control because they don't trust their defense. So if you don't trust your defense against Tampa Bay, then my God, the juggernaut that they're about to play is totally different. Jahmyr Gibbs is that much more better, that much better than Bucky Irving. And I love Bucky, but he's not Jahmyr Gibbs. You got Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the wide spots. This is not Mike Evans. So I'm getting Marshawn Lattimore. Hey man, you better come to play because these are different cats. So I would like to say I'm starting to love Washington just because of JD5. They did take us out. I'm not mad. I'm not upset at the end of the day, but they're going to lose against Detroit.
Yeah.
So are you saying the only
unless
difference between
it's in the fourth quarter? If this thing is close, I'm telling you, JD5 will pull it out, but I don't expect it to be close.
So you're saying the only difference between week 1 and last week is the maturation of JD5?
Yes.
Okay.
We barely can
That's
stop
fair.
him there, to be honest.
That's fair. That's fair. In this matchup, look, I got Detroit. I think the week off does them a lot of good. We know how banged up they were, especially on defense. I think a week off and just allowing them to get a little bit refreshed going into this matchup. And I think they're playing a team. I'm not saying you should take them lightly, but I don't think anyone expected Washington to play Detroit this week. And I think that's going to play in Detroit's favor as well. They're going to be at home. I think they want to prove that they can get back to the NFC Championship game. They're going to take this series, like you said, Jahmyr Gibbs, St. Brown, Jameson Williams. That offense was rolling the last time we saw it. And I got Detroit this matchup by 10 points at least, 2 scores. Look, Washington's time may come. It's just not here yet. I don't know if they have the offensive firepower to go drive for drive with Detroit right now. I think if they have to score touchdowns on every possession that they get, they can't settle for field goals. They can't punt the ball. They have to put up points to kind of stick with Detroit because Detroit can score on the ground with Gibbs, through the air. I didn't even mention Laporta on the offense as well. And I think that offense is just rolling. So I got Detroit.
I didn't even.
Yeah, both of these teams live on fourth down, so that's going to be
Yes,
the
Lord.
difference in this
You
game.
might
Yeah.
not see one punt.
Yeah. So this will be a very aggressive game plan for both teams, which makes for interesting football. This game is in Detroit, so a fast track. I like to see what Washington is like on that fast track in Detroit. I need to see more out of the running game outside of Daniels. He is the engine. Don't get me wrong, but he needs some more help for me to be more comfortable to take them in the long run. So yeah, I'm going with Detroit. just too many options. If something's not working in one area, they have a second and third option. Where Washington, everything relies on what the quarterback is able to do, and until they're able to upgrade in those areas, this is a successful year, no doubt about it. You can't take nothing away from them. Nobody expected this team to be here, let alone make it to the divisional round. So anything less than a success, you call this season, you're being foolish. So no consolation prizes to hand out, but this is a good step in the right direction, and we'll move on. We definitely have to talk about this next one, and we pride ourselves on standing on business, and really, if we say something, we mean it. So I'm a man of if I make a claim, I back it up. So let's go back to last week's picks and what we said we thought would happen coming into this week. So I'm just gonna take us back there for 1 second before we can go forward. You got to look back. So last week, Calvin, you picked the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, the Los Angeles Chargers. That was incorrect. The Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was incorrect. And the Los Angeles Rams. So I give you credit. You were one of the only people who picked the Rams to win last week. Do you feel good about these selections?
Let's scroll down and see what you selected.
Justin, you picked the Bills, the Ravens. You were the one who picked the Houston Texans, Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota. Unfortunately, Tampa Bay and Minnesota didn't make it. You and I had very similar selections. I picked the Chargers. The Chargers were defeated. So, no, I was incorrect on 3 occasions last week. So I was the loser on last week. I think all of us picked 3 losers.
No, I picked 2. Let's go back.
Yeah, you picked 2.
Let's count.
Give you credit. All right, so both of y'all picked 2 losers. No. Justin picked 2 as well. Tampa and the Vikings. So I was the loser for the week.
I was perfect in the conference.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let's bring this thing forward.
You just wish you were perfect in the NFC. I understand.
Calvin, let's get this thing on paper. Texans and Kansas City. Who you got, Calvin?
Kansas City.
Baltimore and Buffalo.
I got Baltimore. Not by 17 points, but I got Baltimore.
All right. The Rams and the Eagles. Who you got?
I got the Rams. Going against my West Coast going east.
Detroit?
And Detroit, yeah.
Justin, Texans and the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
By 17.
Ravens and Buffalo.
3 scores. Buffalo.
There you go. And then I have the Chiefs and the Ravens. I have the Eagles and the Lions. Mine is pretty much chalk. These are the teams I basically had from the beginning of the year, except I had Miami. Unfortunately, Miami's long gone. But yeah, everything else is pretty much set. So out of these teams that are left, confidence picks. Let's get to that. Who's the coach you trust the most from this list here? We can go who number 7. So let's see. 8 teams left. Number 8 on your list for coach you trust the least of all the coaches remaining. Calvin, who's that coach for you?
Unfortunately, this is only his 2nd year at the helm, so I'm not really going to take too much away from him, but I'm going to go with, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, from Houston.
DeMeco Ryans.
DeMeco Ryans, yes.
Okay. Justin, who you got?
Let's go with man, I'm going with Dan Quinn, man.
Okay. Dan Quinn. He gave up that big lead in the Super Bowl when he was in Atlanta. Not really a lot of head coaching experience. He was coaching Dallas, so I agree with that.
Gave up 50 points to Green Bay last year.
Yeah, I'll go with Dan Quinn. I agree with that. I'll start. This was number 7 on my list, and I've thought about this. And look, while I have respect for what he's been able to do in some instances. There are questions about his the way he just thinks things through. And but no, I'm not going to disrespect him like that. Number 7, I'll go D'Amico Ryans. Justin, who you got?
I also was going to go with D'Amico.
Calvin, number 7 for you.
I got Dan Quinn at 7.
All right, who you got? Number 6.
Number 6, I got Nick Sirianni. I'm not gonna. It's not an indictment.
I was debating it.
It's not an indictment on him. I just think it's the caliber of coach that remains in the playoffs.
Justin,
I go with Nick as well, and it's because of him.
Yeah. I was actually debating.
They can still win games. They're just gonna win games in spite of him.
But I got him going so far. That's why I was like, I can't. You know what? Yeah. I got Sirianni there too. I hate the salad, but that's what I was thinking about. I was going to put him in number 7, but I was like, that nigga going to Super Bowl. But I don't want to do that. Number 6 for me. No, that was 6. Number 5 for me is got to be Sean McDermott. Even though he's done a good job this year, I just think that I have more confidence in some of the other coaches higher up. So I'll go McDermott at number 5. Justin, who you got?
John Harbaugh.
Oh my gosh, here we go, man. That hate is real.
Dude, I mean, I set everything up to say that they're going to lose, and it's not going to be Lamar Jackson's fault. So if that's the case, it is somebody else's fault.
You
John
blaming
Harbaugh will be getting fired at the end of this season.
Damn.
You know, I wrote a post on my Facebook before this playoff started,
Jeez.
and I wanted everybody on record. I want everybody on record.
I remember that.
When we go out there and put performances together like we did last week, or we do things, I want to know who gets credit for these things. When we don't have penalties, when we don't have turnovers, we don't make mistakes, do the coach get any credit? When the defense has a turnaround like unlike none other, did the coach get any credit for that? I just want to make sure that when we run the ball more than we pass it, and when we follow the game plan and we're effective, does the coach get any credit for that? Because y'all seem to only want to blame him when things don't work out, but when things work out, he don't get no credit. So I just want to keep score. That's all. I got people on the record, people commenting on the post, and I just can't wait to revisit that. Go ahead, Calvin, number 5 for you.
I got McVay. I just want to see him be able to lead a young group, especially on defense. They are young on defense. I want to be able to see him lead that young group on defense to multiple wins in the playoffs. And it just hasn't happened yet. They had that one
with the Rams with Jared
they
Goff?
they were a veteran group though. They had
He was younger than all of them.
They had Aaron Donald. Yeah, they were a veteran group on defense. Now they're young. This is the post them picks teams. They're getting 3rd and 4th rounders and trying to develop them into playoffs.
And they did develop them. I'll give them all the credit in the world.
That's why I just want to see him be able to do that twice in one playoff run.
They haven't had a first round pick in a long time.
Yeah, so I just got to see it from McVay.
That's tough to me. I don't know if I can put him in that little Super Bowl. There's people on here who have.
Everybody got Super Bowl rings except for
not necessarily
one.
I love Dan Quinn. I mean, I love Dan for the Lions. Dan Campbell. I love him, but he ain't no champion. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I go Dan Campbell next for me because look, he's a great guy. Love him. One of the best coaches in the league. But some of these guys got titles, and I'm not going to sit here and disrespect some of these champions and just say, oh, just because he's had a good year last year and choked, and when it really counted, you're going to get credit for that. If anything, you get a demerit. So, yeah, I'm going with Dan Campbell there next. Justin, who you got?
I'll go with Sean McDermott right here.
Okay.
I haven't picked him yet. Yeah. He's I believe he's under the same pressure as you said about John Harbaugh. Like eventually,
it doesn't seem like that though.
It's not necessarily the firing side of it, but it's just like
that was talks about it.
When they win, it's like, oh, it's only Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's the coach too. You know, so and then when they
he's
lose,
the defensive mind.
He got off when they fired the OC last year. Was it Ken Dorsey?
Ken Dorsey.
Whoever they fired, that kind of took pressure off of him. So he kind of bought himself some more time. Not bought himself more time against the scrutiny from Buffalo Bills fans.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so where we at? Final 4?
4, yeah.
All right, who's your 4, Calvin?
I got McDermott at 4 for those reasons. You know, I just he has to. I don't know if it comes down to it, can you beat Andy Reid? And I think if someone is your Achilles heel, can you beat Harbaugh? Like that's just what I'm not sure of. If it's not for those two, I think you're multiple championship appearances, multiple Super Bowl appearances, but can you get over that hump of beating those guys that have always just seemed to have your number, whether it be in the regular season or the playoffs? So I got McDermott there.
Justin, who you got for 3?
4.
No, I'm on 3.
Are you on 3?
I'm on 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 is now. I'm gonna go with Dan Campbell.
Okay. 3 for me would be Sean McVay. All right, Calvin, who's your 3?
3 for me is Dan Campbell.
Wow.
I think being aggressive is a little bit different when you're home, so we'll see how that works out. But I mean, we're basing this off of one playoff run, but they had their shot last year. So.
And I love Dan Campbell, and that's what I'm saying. I give him a lot of respect.
But I think I gotta see if he's learned from that. That's the only thing I want to see.
This is a confidence pick. You'd feel that this coach will do the right thing to get your team over the hump. Number 2 on your list, Calvin.
I gotta go Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I gotta go Harbaugh.
Justin, number 2 for you.
Regardless of what we see.
Sean McVay. He's still an offensive wizard at times, and I just think that he can find schemes and things like that. They're still going to lose, but I just
didn't have them winning last week, but now you got him too.
You got confidence in him.
You got confidence in him. We didn't do a coaching thing last week
because he beat Sam Darnold.
He beat Minnesota's defense.
That defense, yeah,
impressive.
There's a difference.
How many
and I think we do that
had?
too often. We do that too often. We think the offense doesn't play the other offense. The offense plays the defense. You know what I mean? So again, my confidence is for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens is against the Buffalo defense, not necessarily Josh Allen, what he can do. That's a big different story. So I understand that, and I agree with it.
Right. He beat Brian Flores, not Kevin O'Connell.
And Brian Flores was having a great year. That was a sensational game plan they put together. Calvin, who's your number 1, of course? Big
Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Andy Reid. I think we all got the same number 1.
Yeah, we all got Andy at number 1. He's proven it time and time again, and can't take nothing from him. So, again, we're down to the final 8. Divisional round is typically always one of the most fun weeks for the NFL. So we'll continue to monitor that. Should be a fun weekend, and we'll be back next week to preview the AFC and NFC championship games. But let's some more NFL news before we move on. Mike McCarthy was let go in Dallas this week, and there are a lot of rumors. I know Deion came out with a statement that he still loves Colorado, and Jerry reached out, things of that nature. Calvin, give us the latest. What's happening in Dallas?
We know Mike McCarthy was a lame duck. His contract expired today, so now he has the right to interview with other organizations. I think he's probably going to Chicago if it's not for Mike Tomlin. And Jerry reached out to Deion and just to gauge his interest. Said they've had conversations consistently, and now they just officially talked about the job. I don't know if Deion is coming here. Coming to Dallas. I don't know if that's the ideal job, because whatever job, whoever becomes the head coach of Dallas Cowboys, we know that head coach is strictly just coaching. They don't make personnel decisions. They don't really have any say on coordinators, things like that. That's all Jerry, because he wants the credit. We've had that conversation time and time again. I don't know if that's what Deion necessarily wants, at least right now. I think he wants to find that perfect situation, that perfect organization for him. And I'm not sure if that's Dallas. But let's not forget, Mike McCarthy went 12-5, 3 of the last 4 years. 12-5. They had to buy a couple of years ago, and they've not made it past the divisional round. So if you go 10-7, you're a downgrade for Mike McCarthy. And do you really want to follow that? Can you follow that? You have an organization, you have a team with over the salary cap. You have to pay Micah Parsons. You just gave the highest annual contract to your quarterback, your receiver, second highest paid receiver. You know, you have a numerous amount of holes on defense to fill. It's not as ideal of a job as I think it is. And I think one person that we need to keep in mind for this job, and it has not been mentioned yet, is Mike Tomlin. I don't know if he's gonna be back in Pittsburgh next year, but I think what he can do in that organization, just on the player side, and I think he's someone that is strong-willed enough to tell Jerry no or tell Jerry what he wants. I'm not saying it's going to work, but I'm thinking he's someone that can do that, and we'll see if he lasts longer than a couple of years with that happening. But I think Dion is there to increase the profile of the job, to say this is still the Dallas Cowboys no matter what's happened over the last 30 years, and that's why this conversation is happening. I don't think Dion will be there, at least right now. Something may change in the next 2 or 3 days. Until we see one key factor for me will be the exiting of recruits or entering into that transfer portal. If you start to see that in Colorado, then something's up. But right now, with Dion having the number one quarterback in the nation coming there, the number one transfer wide receiver, and I think defensive lineman or linebacker, as long as they are there and they're remaining there, until you see an exit of those type of players, Dion's going to stay in Colorado.
What you think, Justin?
Man, you said all that to say Jerry Jones is some trash, man. The man denied Mike McCarthy a chance to interview at Chicago, knowing that he was going to fire him a week later. That's true. That's right. Terrible, man. They got just I understand, if you don't want me here, that's one thing. Right. But don't deny my opportunities if you already know you're going to get
still going to Chicago.
It don't matter. Like, suppose they found somebody else or whatever, and I missed my opportunity. Now I gotta sit out another year, or that's low to me. I feel the same way about the Patriots. The fact that they made Gerard Mayo that lamed up because Mike Vrabel, they were just waiting for him to be the next guy after the guy. That's really what it was. Look at it. He didn't want to be the person right after Bill Belichick. He wanted to wait a year and come back, and they scooped him right up. So they made Mayo lamed up. These owners, man, they got some stuff with them, and clearly it don't matter. Like, it's not a black-white thing and none of that stuff. It's just, a lot of black guys get these one and done deals. There's a lot of black guys get one and done deals as a coach. But like I said, but we talking about Dallas and what he did towards Mike McCarthy. So like I said, hopefully he gets a bounce back. He had the team wasn't trash like all the time. They was actually decent. We just know what the issue was. The issue is Jerry and Jerry's world. But that never changed, so it is what it is, and we just keep moving forward. Dallas is gonna be stuck in this trash of an ineptitude, and they're just gonna be there for a while. So there's no hope in Dallas.
What frustrates me is, what is the goal? Is the goal to win championships, or is the goal just to be relevant? Is the goal to just and McCarthy wasn't a great coach. You know what I mean? Yeah, we know money. Yes, true. He wasn't a great coach, but 12-5 is 12-5. This was an injury-laden year. When you lose your quarterback, and the fact that he wasn't extended last year was every reason to know that you don't believe in him. Fine, let him go. But to me, the issue isn't about necessarily X's and O's completely. It's about the structure of the organization. And until that changes, I don't care who you bring in there. And then you bring up Mike Tomlin, and we can move on to that because I'm done talking about the Cowboys. But the Ravens have been an organization since 1996. And in that time, we've had 3 head coaches: Ted Marchibroda, Brian Billick, and then John Harbaugh. Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been an organization dating back. They are stalwart of the NFL since the beginning of time, and they've had 3 coaches in their lifespan. At some point in time, you have to ask yourself, when is it time to cut bait and move on? Now, I don't want to open this up to the floor because I know various people have various opinions on this conversation. Now, Calvin, you in just your last soliloquy said that you would want Mike Tomlin as your head coach. What has Mike Tomlin done that makes you believe that he would make any difference in Dallas that he couldn't make when he had leadership and ownership in the Rooney family, who has supported him 100% of the way, giving him full carte blanche of the organization, and respected him enough to not put him in a position where he has to question whether his job is in danger or anything like that. And you want him to go to Dallas? What about Pittsburgh is not good? I mean, what about Dallas do you think is more attractive for Mike Tomlin than what he has in Pittsburgh?
I'm not saying the Dallas job is as attractive. I think the Pittsburgh, and I know this is cliche, to some extent the message has gotten stale, but even more so, under Mike Tomlin, they are not bad enough to get a franchise quarterback. However, they're not good enough to win in the playoffs. They're just kind of stuck in that purgatory. And unless there is some drastic change, some dramatic trade or some mortgaging of the future, potentially draft picks, they're going to be stuck there with the Kenny Pickett's and the Russell Wilsons and potentially the Aaron Rodgers of the world because they can't find that franchise quarterback. And this day and age in football, if you can't have a quarterback, then you can't win. I'm not saying that the Dallas job is better than Pittsburgh, just based off of ownership, of leadership, of the hierarchy in that organization. We know this what Pittsburgh Steelers are. But it becomes a point in time where it's time to move on. And I think that's the point in time that we're reaching with Mike Tomlin. And just him not being appreciated by these Pittsburgh Steelers fans and potentially some of the organization, to which we're talking about him losing 6 straight playoff games, being down, I think, on average double digits and going to halftime in every one of those playoff games. We don't mention the players on that team, the aging Ben Roethlisberger, the Kenny Pickett, the Russell Wilson. So what do you really have going into these matchups? You took a 10-3 team that was smoke and mirrors for basically all we know, and they finished 10-7, yes, but they started 10-3 at one point and were competing for the number 1 seed in the AFC. That has to do with coaching because they weren't as talented as we thought they were, especially going down the stretch. Now, you can say that they played better teams, that they eventually just came down to earth. Yes, but we can all tell there was something going on in that locker room, be it on the defense with the offense or just with maybe it's the receivers. Something was going on, but that team stayed together for the most part, and I think that's the leadership of Mike Tomlin. I'm not saying that he can fix all the problems, but right now he's not being appreciated in Pittsburgh. And I know an organization that will better appreciate him if we can go 10-7 every year.
So
I think that's foolish. Go ahead, Justin.
Both of you actually have solid points. One is how mediocre is mediocre. Like, are we going to keep rewarding you being mediocre? He's approaching Marvin Lewis era, right? Of mediocrity or whatever. And then we
go. You know who else we remind you of? Who's the former coach of the Dallas Cowboys? 8-8.
Understood.
Garrett?
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, Clapton dude. So, and then Calvin, your point is very valid too. We just had a segment talking about the AFC based it off of your quarterback play. If you have a certain stature of quarterbacks, I expect you to be in this position. Now, the other point is, and this is my issue with Mike Tomlin, is what he allows in his locker room. That's my issue. This George Pickens thing.
Always receivers.
I understand if it was a one-off, but it's not. And it started maybe even before AB was there. So it is a concerning thing where, so are you letting your players get away with a little bit too much? And also all this solid stoic post conferences and interviews he gives. Are you like that behind closed doors? If so, then why are you having these issues in your locker room? So that's why, if anything, if he wants to change of scenery, that's where it comes from. It's because of that. He got to get that stigma off his back. And I don't know where he goes. I don't know. But either Pittsburgh gets a reliable offense again, or I think he leaves. I think that's the one or two things. Stop with these projects and things like that. And Andy Reid was winning in Philly.
That's it. Okay, Mike Tomlin was winning.
And NFC championship games, not just getting to the playoffs and losing.
He made it to one Super Bowl.
but he went to 4 straight NFC championship games, and then
And
they said
Pittsburgh
they got
went to
tired
what,
of him.
3 or 2 and 3 years?
In his
Well,
first
then
couple
he-
years
I
as a
mean-
coach. That was 18 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
won 4 or 5 years ago.
He was still
He hasn't won a
operational.
playoff game in 8 years.
He had one bad year with Kevin Kolb. That, if anything, that's what you hold against him, because Kevin Kolb was his pick. That was his board, and he ended up being trash. But then you got Michael Vick, so he actually won with Vick, and then he went to Kansas City.
Look, here's my issue. I think I have a great respect for any black man who has been able to hold a coaching job in the NFL for a significant amount of years. And in my opinion, the Rooneys have done right by Mike Tomlin. They have. You cannot say they haven't. They have given this man leniency, carte blanche. You can watch Hard Knocks and see it. He runs that organization. He's the face of that organization. Yeah. Everything happens through Mike Tomlin. And to get the mediocrity that they've gotten for as long as they've gotten, and to stand by him and allow that thing to continue, that shows you this is not about winning championships in Pittsburgh anymore. It's just about being a good organization. You know, we make the playoffs here and there. We win some games. Hey, we win, we lose, whatever. We the Steelers, we still fight hard, play good defense, and that's all that matters. They're not about winning titles no more, because you can't tell me that a team that has not won a playoff game in 8 years should not be doing whatever it can to drastically make changes. I'm sorry, guys. People can say, oh, they haven't been able to get a quarterback. Oh, look, it's not like every quarterback that's playing well in the league went in the top 5 or something. Lamar Jackson was the last pick in the first round. The Ravens took a chance going to get him. There are other quarterbacks who have been developed in the time since Ben Roethlisberger was going downhill. Ben Roethlisberger was going downhill a few years before he actually retired. They had ample opportunities to go out there and find another quarterback. And if they didn't, that shame on them. Shame on their evaluation. Look at some of the draft picks they decided to go with in the first round of some of these drafts, and some of the players they overlooked or they skipped over and decided to go with a defensive player or another linebacker or another, because that's the identity of their team. That is a choice. That is not something that was put on you by mistake or because, oh, little old poor us, we can't find a quarterback. No, you didn't go and prioritize a quarterback. And when you did, you went out and picked Kenny Pickett, thinking that was going to be the guy to save it. And Kenny Pickett, for all intents and purposes, he's not a terrible quarterback. You gave up on him. You gave up on him and decided to go with Russ. You went up and then you traded to get Justin Fields, who is still a young quarterback. If you're that good, why not develop him? Why not put him out there and make that man into the starting quarterback? It's not like he's washed. It's not like he had a long career that we've seen the best of Justin Fields. Go do something with him. That is my problem when people I think Mike Tomlin is the most overrated coach in the NFL. There's nothing. What exactly about Mike Tomlin, other than his sound bites, other than his catchphrases, other than the way he's creatively able to put sentences together, that is considered greatness? We just did a confidence picks for all the coaches remain in the playoffs. Why is Mike Tomlin never on lists like that? Because he don't make it past the first round. Like, I'm sorry, man. And we talk about the title. He won his title in his second year as a head coach with Bill Cowher's team. Let's call it what it is. In the other Super Bowl, they lost, which was back-to-back. It's not like they didn't have a year. No, that one good team went to the Super Bowl. They haven't done anything since. So, no, I'm not giving him all this credit to everybody.
He won 2 Super Bowls, all right?
He didn't win no Super Bowl. He won one Super Bowl. They lost to Aaron Rodgers.
One would argue his greatness is the fact that some of these seasons that other coaches dip down to have 3, 4, 5 win seasons, he doesn't have those.
Or is that mediocre?
It depends on your definition.
I'd rather be great, or we just didn't have it this year. We can retool. They are stuck in purgatory.
In football, yes. In football, yes. Don't if you in the middle that you're dead. You're dead in water, right?
You did fish.
So yes, you
For the
wish
most
that
part.
you had those, but that's the problem. That's with him. He will galvanize the other players on the team to play above what they normally do to get you playing
until it
better.
matters.
Until it matters when you actually going against superior talent
That's
and
the
you
problem.
really don't have that talent to play it to match up with them. Why? Because you have been whiffing on a quarterback. Sure, it took Denver still really hasn't found a quarterback since they happened to get Peyton Manning, and he was trashed the last year.
Denver could have drafted Josh Allen. That was on them.
Some players, some teams, some organizations just strike out when it comes to getting certain players. Chicago constantly strike out of getting quarterbacks.
So you think
it's
Pittsburgh is a quarterback
sometimes.
away? You look at that game plan and what they had going on Saturday against the Ravens, and all those players, quote unquote, great players on defense. You think that team is a quarterback away?
There are limitations to the offense based on that quarterback. I think that I'm not going to say if you plug in Patrick Mahomes, they win a Super Bowl, but there are limitations based off that offense that defense covered up.
That defense looked like trash on Saturday. Let's call it what it is.
They looked like trash because they was going against Lamar Jackson, and he made them look like trash.
And guess who you're going to have to go against next year and the year after? And
that's why you need a quarterback to maintain that. You just said, "Yo, Ravens are going to dominate the Bills." You
Why
just said
weren't they in the
Ravens are going to dominate the Bills? That's Josh Allen we talking
about. They are now.
It doesn't matter.
But here's the thing.
Lamar was different.
I'm saying that you as a coach had an opportunity to make your team better. You are clearly, he's been in the organization for 18 years. I don't think, who's the name of the general manager in Pittsburgh? Name him.
No.
Exactly. We don't have, in some teams, I can name you Ryan Poles, I can name you GMs for all of these other teams because we put the onus on those GMs when they don't go out and get talent, right? There's a lot of teams that have been held accountable because, the coach is great, but the GM didn't do his job, or yada, yada, yada. We don't say that in Pittsburgh. We named Ozzie Newsome for years in Baltimore because we knew Ozzie was the one making magic happen, da-da-da-da. Who is the general manager in Pittsburgh? No, clearly there is some type of a conglomeration there that Mike Tomlin is involved with, where they decided our thing is we're going to get wide receivers. Look how many wide receivers have come through that program over the years. If you're telling me Mike Tomlin had no hand in getting Juju, getting Antonio Brown, getting these receivers who, for all intents and purposes, Chase Claypool, who have been breadbaskets in the head, who have been disciplinary issues left and right, and he's their head coach now. You're either coaching it or you're allowing it, like Shannon always say. And I think that goes to speak to his coaching vernacular. That goes to his ability to galvanize young men. And as well as he speaks, clearly there's something missing here. And I think he's overrated. And I'm sick of people keep on just making it seem like everybody else, we can fire these coaches and move on. Oh, if they don't get the job done, hey, Mike McCarthy, you win 12 games. Oh, goodbye. You ain't good enough. Get out of here. These other coaches losing jobs left and right. But Mike Tomlin, he was 8-8. Give him another shot. Like, come on, man. We just saw what happened in New England. That, to me, is more egregious than anything. You know what I mean? I like that. I'm sorry, man. I think at some point it's about reputation. And you got to he's living off of something from so long ago and just being mediocre. And then, well, he's pulling teams out the butt. They shouldn't be that good. Well, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that?
Let me ask you this question. And just give me an answer. I'm not going to deep dive too much into it. If Lamar Jackson is a Pittsburgh Steeler, is John Harbaugh still here? Or are we having this conversation that we're having about Mike Tomlin?
Because I think I have more faith in the Ravens organization to go out and get a comparable quarterback, because the Ravens have always been competitive. Joe Flacco was a good quarterback.
Y'all was not competitive with Kyle Bowler. Stop it.
We were competitive with Kyle Bowler.
That was not competitive. No one cared about Kyle Bowler.
And that wasn't all
Nobody cared about Kyle Bowler.
That was Chris Redman. Kyle Bowler had one bad year, like 2007 or like, no, before.
Kyle Bowler didn't 2007.
What was it?
Steve McNair.
2005? I don't
Steve
remember
McNair.
Kyle Bowler having a terrible year. He had one bad year.
When did he have a good year?
He didn't have a terrible year. Kyle was a come on, man. Don't disrespect my man Kyle Bowler. Baltimore.
That shouldn't be your man.
We had a rough year too. But guess what? We retooled and we came back. That's what you do.
Because you have the greatness of Ozzy. What you talking about? And he let everything to DeCosta. Y'all have a great eye-picking talent. Not
But
everyone
don't
has
compare
that
us to
fortune.
the Steelers. That's my point. Tomlin gets the benefit of this, like this
No,
aura.
Calvin was saying if it wasn't for Lamar, Harbaugh would have been fired. Harbaugh was on his way. He was packing his bags. He was packing his bags, and Lamar saved him. Period.
No, he wasn't packing no bags.
He was packing his bags.
We went to the playoffs in Lamar's rookie year, and Joe Flacco played most of that year. Lamar came in the second half. Let's not act like.
And led them to a 5-1 record down the stretch to get them to the wild cards. Yes.
And the defense played a hand in that. Don't act like it was just Lamar. Let's not act like even when we didn't have a quarterback, our defense didn't hold us in games or something like that.
Or the 2012 when y'all won it or whatever the year that was.
Our defense wasn't that great that year, but we was our offense was the driving force of that team. Ray was on his last legs. Ed was on his last legs. Suggs was solid, but injured a lot. I mean, look, again, I get it. You need a quarterback in this league. Look at the teams that are playing. The last 4 teams remain in the AFC this week. C.J. Stroud, second-year player. Again, he was in the draft. They went out. They identified him. They got him. But when you're picking 20 years.
C.J. Stroud was the second pick.
I don't know. I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, yes, he went early. He was a great player. But it's not like Cleveland having swung for the fences the last few years. They made a blockbuster trade to go out and get who they thought would be a game-changing quarterback and Deshaun Watson. It just didn't work out to be like that. But they went out there and they made the move. Like, what has Pittsburgh done to really?
They brought in 2 quarterbacks in the same year, and
it still didn't work. So who's to blame for that? Did you really think when they signed Russ,
you brought 2 castaways over?
Title?
Chicago was dumping Justin Fields. Denver was dumping Russell Wilson, and they say, "Okay, well, hopefully we make something work."
Wanted him.
Give him a premier quarterback.
Doesn't he? Doesn't he love Russ?
Mike Tomlin loves Sierra, and then Russell just came with a deal.
Look, that's on Tomlin. I don't care what nobody say. That is on Tomlin. If he thought Russ was going to be the answer, and he benched Justin Fields and went with Russ. Russ got hot for a couple weeks, and he stuck with him too long. At some point, you got to have a feel for the game and get the hook out. Like, put Fields in the game and let him run with it. Like, I'm sorry, man. That is coaching. That is coaching. He's overrated. I know he's black, so everybody want to, we'll give the black man a chance. Look, result.
Hey, first and foremost, that voice sounded very lack of pigment just now. So I don't like that just now. We're not going to do that.
Get a black man a chance. I love black people. And black coaches deserve
I'm glad that you love black people. I'm glad you have to say that. I'm glad you have to make that declaration that you love your people. Thank you. Black coaches deserve a chance. All right, so since 2003, we lost in the wild card round. 2004, we went 9-7, but we missed the playoffs. 6-10 in 2005. That was the year. 6-10. That was our bad year. Then next year, right back 13.
They got Steve McNair after that.
I'm just saying they made a move.
You saying Kyle
It's the same thing as Russ.
5 years or something?
I said Kyle Bowler didn't have that many bad years. He went 6-10.
He didn't have that many good years.
He didn't have any bad years either. They went 9-7, and then they went 6-10.
9-7 didn't make the playoffs.
That's a good year. I'm not disagreeing with you. That wasn't a good
Next year,
But
Mr.
y'all
Playoffs.
giving this guy
the
credit
year after
for
that, Steve
8-8.
But he didn't have any bad years.
Y'all giving this guy credit for going 8-8. What's wrong with 9-7 for 1 year? 1 year.
And then he was going the next
following year. It was worse.
Because we determined he wasn't the guy. Ain't that what you're supposed
to
do?
So when did he have a good year?
He wasn't bad in 2003. 10-6, and we lost in the wild card round. You don't remember that year? I worked at the stadium that year. Jamal Lewis was running crazy. But hey, it worked. It worked. That's what you do when you got a young team. Anyway, I really
We're
think
gonna pull up Kyle Bowler stats for next week.
I ain't say Kyle Bowler was great. Y'all brought up Kyle Bowler. I never mentioned his name.
You said he ain't have a bad year.
No.
When did he have a good year?
Justin tried to compare him to when we had Kyle Bowler, and I said, you know what the organization
You said
did?
y'all never had an issue at quarterback. Yeah, you did.
I didn't say we never
Yeah, you
had an
did.
issue. I would never even pop my lips to say that.
That's how Kyle Brawler got brought up.
No. I said they drafted Kenny Pickett. They should have stuck with him a little longer. They dumped him. They had Duck Hodges
Kenny
out
Pickett
there.
led his team to a playoffs. Kyle Bowler did not.
And so he led them to the playoffs last year. And what they do this year?
I don't care. I'm just talking about Kyle Bowler. You comparing Kyle Bowler like he was the fourth best quarterback in Ravens
I never
history.
compared Kyle Bowler.
You said Kyle Bowler never had a bad year.
I never said that. Rewind the tape once this is over. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. Because I actually watched the games. Of course he had a bad year. What do you mean? That's stupid. I said that the Ravens identified that even when we didn't have a quarterback, our defense kept us in games to make us good. But we realized that that wasn't good enough. That's when they went and got Steve McNair. Don't you remember the year that we really should have went further than what we did? We choked
06.
and kicked 5 field goals against Colts.
Peyton Manning. Yes, 06. Lost division championship at home.
But once we got rolling, we were rolling. You trying to say we never? Joe Flacco was a good quarterback for us.
I never brought up Joe Flacco. I'm talking about Kyle Bowler.
No,
you apparently the third best quarterback in
the Lamar saved Harbaugh's job. I mean, you can say that about any coach. You can say that about any coach.
No, I said if Lamar was in Pittsburgh, would Harbaugh still be here?
Getting fired right now, wouldn't he, Justin?
It would have been more than just Baker. Baker didn't save him.
Who saved him?
The overall team play.
Well, that's what teams do. So Tomlin.
Oh, okay. Understood.
So Tomlin, your team ain't want to play for you. Lost 5 in a row down the stretch. Is that what it is? They ain't want to play for him. They quit on him. And then your boy, what's his name? What's the receiver? He go on Pickens. And say, "You got any hope for this?" Nah, no hope. That's what you do to the best coach in the league. There's no hope here in Pittsburgh.
Who said he was the best coach in the league?
That's how y'all talk about him. That's how y'all talk about him. Like he the best coach in the league. He ain't shit.
Whoever said that.
On.
Rewind the tape. When did I say that?
Y'all love like Tomlin because he could say a couple catchphrases. Let's move on to the NBA. Lot been happening the last few weeks. We've been concentrating a lot on the NFL, but there's been some interesting things happening in the NBA. And one of the topics is what's happening. And we briefly touched on it last week with the Miami Heat and things of that nature. But also some issues in Minnesota. We've been seeing some issues with Zion Williamson popping up again, getting suspended, kicked off the team playing for being late. Talking about he was in a food court. There was a rumor about that, but I think that was untrue.
That wasn't true. That wasn't NBA Central. That was the other one. Yeah.
There's a lot of little things happening around there. They say Zion just can't get right, man. What's the big stories that we haven't been talking about that you thought deserve a little bit shine the last couple of weeks? I'll give you a couple seconds to think. One story that I think is very interesting is what's happening in Denver. Russell Westbrook, man. I want to give him credit. I thought that when he went to LA, it was never a good fit. I thought the plan with LeBron and AD, a lot of people had expectations for what that big three would be. But playing in Denver, I think he's gotten his second life. I think he's really found a rhythm. The triple doubles with him and Jokic is historic. They're playing off each other well. And I'm happy for Russ because he's one of the hardest playing brothers that I've ever seen play the game of basketball. He takes it very serious. And I think he was getting scrutinized unjustly a lot over the last few years for his game falling off a cliff. But I think he's found a second life in Denver. And I think that's a good story going around the NBA. Any thoughts on Russ and what's happening?
Russ is just doing what he needs to do. If he starts, I don't know if they're going to make that move or not. Like as a full starter, maybe bring Aaron going off the bench. I don't know. But when if anybody found a fountain of youth, it's Russ, man. And it's good to see that he's getting some positive love going his way. I know he's enjoyed it. He deserves it. All he did was just play his game and just was the butt of a lot of jokes. A lot of jokes. Especially from Skip Bayless and people of the like, changing his last name and everything. So, when you're playing well, it's good to see it, and he's being rewarded for it. That's good stuff.
Yeah, right now he's the second best player on the Nuggets. I mean, he stepped up in Jamal Murray's absence when he was out, and then just his lack of consistent play on the court. So, it's what Russ does. Putting up triple doubles, especially with Jokic. Still getting to the basket, still spry, even when it's like his 15, 16 year in the league, something like that. So,
yeah,
doing what he does.
Definitely. Again, lot going on in association. Let's check out the standings right now. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been on fire, pretty sensational if you ask me. That big matchup last Wednesday night.
Yeah, that game last Wednesday was good.
Yeah, man, that was a showdown of the two best teams, and Cleveland was able to flex that muscle and show that this is why we for real. This is a team that looks like they go in for the long haul. Boston's still hanging around. The Knicks are right there. They're not really great against teams that are over 500, but who is? If you're really looking around, everyone's kind of hovering around, like, it's just not really. We're used to more teams.
Yeah, I was going to say they beat Milwaukee about 30 last night.
Do you get a badge for that, for beating a team that's 500? But everybody's damn near 500. It seems like this is a lot of parity right now in the league. What are you mumbling about? Go ahead.
No, you said 500, but Milwaukee's 3 games above 500. But continue.
I say barely 5. Look,
that's not
barely over. That's 3 games.
Barely's 1 or 2.
We've seen many seasons where teams at this point in the season still might be at single-digit losses. Right now, we only have 2 teams with single-digit losses. There is a lot of parity in this league right now. A lot of losses have been tallied up earlier than normal. I haven't seen it like this in a long time. Go back and look. We used to have some teams that really went a long time before they got into 20 losses. But look now, a lot of these teams hovered around 18 losses, 19 losses. This is a lot of parity in this league, and it's going to make for an interesting second half of the season. Calvin, what's your thoughts on the overall play right now? Some of the teams that look like not that many people pulling away, establish themselves as the best of the best.
I mean, play it as a whole, in my opinion, is down. I mean, you have your upper echelon teams, your teams leading the conference are playing well, but look at who you expected to be high. Let's go to Phoenix. Phoenix is a game under 500. They lost tonight. They're a game under 500 with their quote-unquote big 3, with KD, who's already having rumblings of being unhappy, with Booker, rumblings about being unhappy, with Beal trying to ship him out. We just expected more from them. I'm not really sure what's going on there. And on the other hand, you have the Clippers. I don't think anyone expected them to be over 500 at basically the midway point, with Kawhi basically coming back 7-10 days ago. He basically had Harden leading this team. So I think that you're good to great teams are playing well, but there are very few of those, and then everyone else is kind of just middling along in purgatory. And I think that's what you have on most nights, which is why we talk about the product being so up and down. Last week we had Cleveland and Oklahoma City. That was a phenomenal matchup. If you watched that game, you should have watched that game if you're a basketball fan. To have the 2 best teams in each of their conference playing each other. At that point, I think they each had 4 or 5 losses at that point. So we're talking about 60 wins combined with under 10 losses combined. You should have watched that game, but we have so very few of those games, 9 in and 9 out. And even tonight we have blowouts. We have Denver up by 30 points against Dallas in the middle of the third quarter. That game's become unwatchable. So I think it's just the amount of great teams that we have, and there are very few of those. But when we have those matchups, you got to watch those matchups.
Mm-hmm. The thing that's standing out for me is one for the Eastern Conference. Detroit is they're balling. Let's just call it what it is. They won a majority out of the last 10 games. Cade and that crew got. They turning the corner. They are definitely turning the corner, and they deserve some respect. I said this and I got a lot of flack for it, But we was going over top 10 this and all this stuff in the beginning of the season. And I said, LeBron James isn't in my top 10. Steph Curry is not in my top 10. The season and the way it's going, these dudes aren't going to be in the top 10, man. I'm just throwing it out there, man. The demise is there. Right. So yeah, the demise is there and everything like that. So it's coming into fruition. That's all I'm saying. Just watch out for it. It's just coming to fruition. LeBron James is not going to make the playoffs. Just calling what it is. Steph Curry will not make the playoffs. I tell you, the team that's going to make the playoffs. That's the San Antonio Spurs. That second half of the season. Watch how they hit this corner. They're going to hit the corner hard. I'm just saying. I'm not saying they're going to bend and hit the corner wall. I'm just saying they're going to hit the corner hard. Understand that.
I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed. I've been watching some of these games and I don't know. And I don't know if it's the malaise of the football season or
I can tell you why. I can tell you why.
Go ahead.
When you watch basketball, other than a few players, everybody is playing a very similar game.
True.
So you coming from a generation in which we all are a part of, where you have so many different games in one. And I'm not talking about the 90s, and it's not a decade thing, but at the end of the day, when you look at the 2000, 2010, 2000, that era when you had Kobe, Matt, the Webber, the power forwards, Garnett, Dirk, Shaq, you had so many different personalities. You had so many different types of games that it was easy for you to kind of gravitate towards. Right now, you say the parity, like why is everybody so close? It's whoever's hot. Whoever's firing the most threes off is going to win the game that particular day. You got people like, let's say Boston, right? And you got their 4, 5, 6 guys. They put up just as much as threes, if not more, than Tatum and Brown in the crew. So it does give a little. All right, watch they run down. Watch they're gonna space it out. There's a three. Okay, I ain't gonna do the same thing on the other end. Okay. Oh, that guy finally got hot. That's what it is. So you really have to be a fan of basketball to kind of weather that storm until you start to see the playoffs get here, unfortunately. That's my opinion.
No doubt that fandom is fandom, but at the end of the day, when you're watching these games, you still want people to play a style that's entertaining. And to me, it's just so like robotic. And I know they're going to jack it up. Oh, here goes another three. Here goes. You know what I mean? It's no rhythm, no smoothness. Yeah. And the star power is an issue for me as well.
Correct. I was getting ready to say that. There's very little star power.
You never know who's going to play. Like you can't bank on. Oh, I see two teams that I know have some stars on it. You don't know if Luka going to be there tonight. You don't know. Who's playing for the who's Milwaukee. I don't know what I'm going to get. And that's what pisses me off. Like I just feel like for this league to get back to where it was before, it can't be a league issue. It has to be the players. The players need to take accountability, look in the mirror, and say, we want to be the stars that are remembered forever. And no, I don't sense that pride. Like nobody's like, not nobody. I'm not gonna say nobody. There is a lack of big time, like I want to be better than you, and I'm gonna show it night in and night out. No hatred, no, not that you gotta hate each other, but like no healthy. Like I thought Anthony Edwards was like getting there, like he was that guy for me that was like, yeah, he gonna bring some of that edge back. Like I can't get behind a Jalen Brunson. He don't say nothing. He don't. He has
a podcast.
I'm talking about like in his play. Like I don't feel that aggressiveness. But you know who do? Like Atlanta, your boy, who talks shit. You know what I mean? Like, but is his team really good enough, or do you feel like he's a impact player against anybody outside the Knicks or the Pacers? No, but I want that. I want Ja to start flexing on people. I want, you know what I mean, like some type of heated rivalry to emerge. I just don't feel it. I don't feel it.
It's funny you brought that up. Ja just played Anthony Edwards, and you barely noticed it all, even though it kind of came close. Like the superstar That's they kind of lost. They lost it, right? I don't know where they lost it. Shoot, even Melo was talking about this on 7 p.m. It's very he just there's no lead up to games anymore. It's just whoever
No
play
big
whoever.
build.
Yeah.
That's it. He said when you played in Madison Square Garden, whoever was coming into town, that was the marquee thing, right?
Sure.
That was the thing. So he's talking from his experience. But even from watching the game on our end, yeah, Sundays used to be saved for certain games. Thursdays supposed to be certain games that prime time light, and it's no stars like that
Well, it's
because
also
everyone's playing a mediocre game.
and
Similar game,
the
not mediocre.
spotlight is different as well. I will say that football kind of has taken over the time slot. So hopefully after the All-Star game, we get back into, and I'm sure we'll be more focused on the NBA in the coming months. But it's just you want to feel it from the start. And I thought the beginning of the year was started off very well in season tournament. We were very excited for that. But it's just a malaise. It's just sitting over top of this league right now. Just a couple things to clean up before we get out of here. Last week's offensive player of the week for the Western Conference was Sabonis out there in Sacramento. Averaged 20 rebounds a game last week. Shout out to him. Darius Garland for that Cavaliers team, averaging 26 and 7, 52% from the field. From the guard position ain't bad at all. Just good performances overall. But anything else that you wanted to touch on, Calvin? Any stories from the past couple weeks that we might have shining light on before we get out of here?
Just looking at this, and just going back to generalization about the league. Look at this. We are halfway through the league, and there are 4 teams that don't have double-digit victories. And this is the state of the league that we're in. And you can go on each one of those teams and probably name if you're a basketball fan, name 2 or 3 players. You can name someone that you want to see in the All-Star game, be it Melo, Zion, and this is the state of the league. You have potential stars, up-and-coming stars, however you want to look at it, and they are on these teams. And like you said, there's no star power. The star power that you do have is on these type of teams in which you don't want to see them play because of the surrounding cast and because of what you see on a night-to-night basis, what kind of basketball you see on a night-to-night basis.
Now, I know they would never do this, but maybe eliminate some of these teams, man. Just get rid of them.
We get ready to get 2 more. It's too much.
It's too much. It's too much.
It's either that or the 3-point line. You can adjust that if you want. We talk about different. Expanding it to the point maybe just get rid of it from the sides. That would definitely the spacing will be won't be too much of an issue then.
Somebody might do something on top of the key.
That's not going to look right, and they know it, so they're going to have to do something. You're going to move around a little bit more. No, I think they should. Now is the time because, like I said, the ratings. I mean, Larry, you know better than most. Like the ratings aren't the same. The ratings are taking a hit. So maybe you just stop fighting in the NFL altogether. Let's just either shorten the season.
Christmas.
I doubt if they do that, right? Because that's contracts. You start the whole thing at Christmas and you take advantage of the month and a half that football is gone, baseball is and that's all you have. You literally let the summer get away from you every year. We know why. Like that's just how it was or whatever like that. But mid-June, that's the playoff. That's the finals.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand what you're saying. I agree that you should start the season later. But I mean, how much is football taking over to where the Super Bowl is over and we're talking about the combine and free agency and the draft? You're talking about
it's been like that for several years.
But even more important, you're talking about schedule release now. So you're talking about football in February, March, April, May,
fine.
and there are no games being played.
I can have football. I can have basketball. At least our premier matchups going against that versus going against NFL playoffs.
Okay.
But the problem is the media too. And I study media. So I kind of look at what people are promoting. And it depends on who has the television contract. So if ESPN has the good NBA package, they're more incentivized to now promote it. Now, I think TNT losing the NBA next season will really help the NBA. And I say this why? because now the ESPN package and ABC package will have a greater emphasis. Now Amazon is gaining the NBA, so that they're getting the second package that TNT used to have. The ESPN package will have a greater emphasis, and now inside the NBA is moving to ESPN. Why is that a benefit? TNT only covers basketball on Thursday nights or Tuesday nights. They don't have the 24/7 news cycle like a ESPN does. They don't have the constant sports center. They don't have the get ups, the first takes, the different shows like that. Is inside the NBA with not inside the NBA, the Kendrick Perkins and Richard Jefferson show. When those shows and the networks actually put more of an emphasis on the stars, that's when the sport grows. That same thing happened with UFC. When ESPN got the UFC contract and they put more emphasis on UFC stars and different things like that, the popularity of the sport went up. The NBA and ESPN is not incentivized right now to promote the NBA to the level that TNT is, because they get the All-Star game. They get all those fun shows that Charles and all them are on. So they get all the benefit of that. But I think that will really change how the stars are promoted. Because right now, that's why they always talk about LeBron and Steph or the people that we already know, is because those are the ones who are proven to be draws. We have to have new people be put in those positions to be highlighted. When's the last time you really got a good character development piece showing you who Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is? When's the last time you really got a focus on some of these young stars that people might not know because they're not household names, other than when it's negative, like with Ja Morant when he was going through everything with the gun incident?
I see what you, and that leads to a whole nother conversation about American-born versus foreign stars. I think that's why you don't have that piece on SGA. But they tried to build Jai up. They tried to build Anthony Edwards, and then it was Tatum, and then we had for each one of them had different reasons why they never grew from that point.
They build them up during the playoffs.
Like yeah, when we already going to be seeing them.
But no. So I mean,
yeah. Anthony Edwards, that whole hype train was right before the playoffs.
You're right. You're right with that. But that never grew into the Olympics this year. If it was no Olympics, then it just would have grew into the beginning of the season. You may still be on that hype train right now, but because of the Olympics, and we saw who came through in the Olympics, it was Bron, it was Steph, it was the old guard. There was no new superstar that stepped up. Tatum was benched, in most important games. So whatever momentum they had, it was stopped. Now, if there was no Olympics, that would have carried them to the beginning of the season. But because we saw over the summer, now you got to reestablish a new star all over again. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, well, who is this? So should it be Donovan Mitchell now? Or should we go back to Tatum? Should it be Brunson? Now you're trying to figure out who should it be. And now you got to build up that steam all over again. So the problem was, in this case, it was the Olympics. It's because what we saw over the Olympics and who stepped up and who played those crunch minutes. And that's what basketball fans remember, is what we saw last.
But I think it's not just a one-time thing. I think it's something that needs to be ongoing. That is the problem. And it's not enough of that. And somebody made a good point, and I do agree with it. When you have your best show inside the NBA with Shaq, Charles, Kenny, and so much of the content, which is funny, don't get me wrong, it's entertaining, they are degrading the game. Like Richard Jefferson made that point.
To an extent.
Yeah.
They taking shots at the players. They're saying how they're not playing well. They're talking about how they're not good.
People watch.
And people respect their opinion, and then they start parroting what they say. Because if Charles said it, if Shaq said it, if Kenny said it, it must be true. Oh, they don't know what they're doing no more. Even if you don't fully believe
not necessarily true. It's enough to have a soundbite, and the soundbite goes viral.
That's what I mean. You
start and they have that platform.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're arguing with someone who hasn't played in 20 years. Yep. You can't win that argument.
You can't.
You can't win that argument.
If you're Shaq and you what you say carries weight for big men. So if you say none of these big men know how to play no more, everybody gonna start saying, well, yeah, Shaq said it. None of these big men know how to play no more. Like that carry, like back in the day when some of the old timers used to say that about the other generation. It's cyclical, but they have a bigger platform to say it on. And I think the game needs more ambassadors.
It's funny you say that, right? And I'm the mind is rolling. When Jordan left, right? The 98, 90, what I'm saying? So yeah, when Jordan left in 98, it was well, where are we going to go? What's going to be the league? I remember tuning in every Thursday to see Kenny Smith talking about who he does the next Jordan, the blueprint, so on and so forth. Kobe, Kobe, Carter, Matt, that kind of a thing, right? The truth got his name out there. The Matrix so it was a thing. So whatever was the highly rated show, even at that time, was still inside the NBA. They were doing takes where as though they were promoting these guys. Hey, watch Hey, if you're lost without Jordan, look at these guys. Well, yeah, now you're saying the opposite is happening, which is, you're right. That is factually speaking. They're saying, hey, this guys that we have now, they're not what they all cracked up to be. Well, shit. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess you're right.
Even when it's not true. That's the thing that bothers me. They gloss over the positive aspects of these people's game and just talk about what they like about their game and compared to how they played the game in their day. That's the emphasis I get a lot of the time. Because even Charles, I like Charles, but Charles will always pick guys who play like he played or play like the game he's familiar with instead of acknowledging what the game has transformed into and what might be attractive to some of the young kids. And then what happens is the young kids get like made fun of for liking what they're seeing from the new game. So they almost feel like, oh, I'm not even really embraced for liking what I like. You know what I mean? Like, so then that's why it's a dichotomy on the old guard versus the new guard. Like, we kind of in the middle.
But it's only them. And that's the thing. All that negative hype.
Yeah.
The players, the individual players that played on, they don't get sound bites. Like you'll hear somebody talk about it from the 60s, 70s, 80s. But the constant sound bites are coming from them. That's why I think Amazon and NBC and stuff, they're putting up together player packages in a sense, Paul. That's Blake Griffin's going to be on a show. Jalen Rose is already Jalen Rose is pro current player, and things like that. Hell, even people like Gilbert Arenas that has a huge platform. He bigs up today's players and he crushes the older guard in a sense, right? That's what you need right now.
Yeah, you need more of that. You do need more of that. And it will be interesting with Draymond, because Draymond, to me, is in their same ilk. I don't think he helps the game. I think he will just be negative just like they are. You know what I mean? They do need more people. Like Jalen Rose was always good with that. I miss Jalen being on television. He would be very good.
He'll be back next year.
Yeah, that'd be very good to see him. Anyway, I know we believe at that point, but I do think that it speaks to some of the enthusiasm to talk about things outside, but you know what I meant, outside of your favorite team and what you like to talk about. Before we get out of here, just really quick, if you've been watching wrestling, WWE's been on fire last couple of weeks. Last week, Raw premiered on Netflix. They had week 2 2 nights ago. Well, last night, excuse me. Another good show back to back. I thought it was a better wrestling show for the current product overall. But one thing I wanted to touch on, and I wanted to say this before we get out of here. What do you all think? Rock Roman at WrestleMania? Is that the match? Justin?
Anything but Cody.
I don't think you can go to Cody now. I don't think you can.
Yeah.
That hug last week, I don't think you can go to Cody.
Anything but Cody.
You don't want Roman and Cody or Rock and Cody?
I don't want to see Cody.
Oh, you're a hater. What is wrong with Cody?
So are you
everything's
saying,
wrong with Cody?
Are you saying Roman beats Cody for the title Royal Rumble, and then is Rock Roman?
Roman's in the Rumble.
No, Roman was in the Rumble.
He declared for the Rumble.
So more likely than not, Cody's going to lose it some kind of way at WrestleMania, and I'm for it. WrestleMania 2 nights, so they might find a way to do it.
I don't think he's losing.
I think he's
WrestleMania. Facing John Cena, and I think he's beating him.
So how long?
No, I think Cena's facing Gunther.
I don't think so.
I think Cena has to win. I think Cena's winning on WrestleMania. That's why.
I think Gunther might be losing that belt before WrestleMania.
I think Cena's winning WrestleMania.
No damn Jay.
I think Gunther might be losing that belt before WrestleMania.
Whoever Cena fights, he wins. He beats at WrestleMania.
Here's the rumor. The rumor is, if you don't like spoilers, I don't know if it's 100% valid. But this
Who
is
knows?
The rumor
They can change it.
Yeah, they can change
it. Yeah.
The rumor card, according to reports, is possibly Roman Reigns and CM Punk, possibly Roman and The Rock. Those are two options. You got an option of Cody against John Cena. John Cena trying to win his last title before he retire. Gunther loses the title either at the Rumble or at Elimination Chamber, and he faces Goldberg in just two big guys versus each other. But for the title, either CM Punk holds that title or goes after Seth Rollins for that title. One of those two options. Maybe a Drew, you throw him in there. So there's a lot of options out there, which is good. You want a different.
But the options are out there because of the unknown Rock schedule.
It's The Rock. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, Rock said himself that he might not be able to wrestle at WrestleMania, depending on the reshoots with Moana.
Yeah, that's what it is. His movie shoots. But I thought them trying to tie up the whole storyline last week with Cody showed you that's not happening, because naturally that should be the match, Cody and Rock, after what happened at last year's WrestleMania, and they never followed up.
And the day after WrestleMania,
Remember when he said he gave him something in his hand? Yeah. But anyway, that's interesting stuff. And we'll continue we'll have more time next week since it'll only be 2 games. We'll get into a little bit more. We're on the road to Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble's going to be in a couple weeks, so we'll talk more wrestling coming up. So if you're a wrestling fan, got any questions in the chat, put it in there, and we'll be talking about that. But one thing before we get out of here, we got to pick this national title game, Ohio State, Notre Dame. Ohio State, man, they for real.
Ohio State killed them, taking the points. Ohio State.
Justin, who you got?
Double digits.
I mean, I don't love Ohio State's quarterback and things like that, but their defense is serious. That Sawyer, the one that had the strip sack or whatever that ran in it, that boy nice. That boy nice.
For Notre Dame. For Ohio State.
Ohio State. Texas. Yeah. I like Ohio State to take this.
Yeah, I think they're just the most talented team. We know what they did in the offseason. They spent the most money to build this team up.
They're going to get a quarterback next year, too.
And they're getting their money's worth. Yeah, they really build up. You got to give them credit. And if you win, you did what you want. But you got to shout out to Notre Dame, playing hard. They got some talent over there. They overachieved in many ways.
I think they're going to get Ewers next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they're getting him in Ohio State. And so the transfer portal never ends.
Never ends. And we'll see. I want to see what Belichick do down there in North Carolina. So we see some transfers get down there. It might be something.
I don't think he's going to be there more than a year.
You really think he went down there for 1 year?
He taking that buyout next year. He did it for his son. He taking that buyout next year. Yeah, he ain't going to be there more than a year.
Interesting. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for us tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Stephon, man, good to see you in the comments tonight. You really lit it up tonight. Stephon, you might have to get you on the show. Your cousin Jimmy, me and Calvin had him on a couple times. We got to get Jimmy back on the show.
It's his playoff time. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get him back on the show because goddamn Jimmy. Jimmy a Kappa, man. I seen him at with his Kappa garb on a couple weeks ago. But yeah, he sent me his podcast, his newest podcast. You got to hear this one, Calvin. He sent it to me today. I'm gonna forward it to you. You know, all his hate for Lamar Jackson has suddenly dissipated. I'm like, what's going on, man? You the Lamar Jackson hater. All of a sudden, Lamar the man. No. Keep that same energy. Keep that same energy, Jimmy. Anyway, we'll talk about it. Y'all be safe. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week for another edition. And we're going to talk about all these games and why the Ravens won by 17 points on Sunday. Because that's what's going to happen. I'm naming it and claiming it. I'm believing it in my heart. And then you're not going to change me from thinking differently. And we'll be back, talk about the Final Four heading into Super Bowl weekend next week. Until next week, thanks for Calvin, Justin, I'm Larry. We'll see you next week. Get off the damn fence.